Warning, this video contains heavy spoilers of Persona 4. If you haven't finished the game entirely, I heavily recommend you do so before continuing. Persona 4 features a great range of lovable characters, from goofy ones like Teddy,
As you can see, I'm a very busy bear.
to more stoic figures like Dojima.
Great vegetables.
Most of these characters we can appreciate and sympathize with. However, there seems to be one crucial character that everyone seems to misunderstand. The one character that everyone brushes off as shallow, but upon closer inspection is actually quite deep and relatable. That character goes by the name of Toru Adachi. Majority of the player base comes to the conclusion that Adachi only did what he did because he was bored, and while this may be true to some extent, it is nowhere near the complete truth behind his motivations. To understand Adachi, we need to do some research on his background and where he comes from. Adachi grew up in the city and had an isolated childhood due to the suffocating pressures on academic grades from his parents. His whole worldview was built from the very limited social and familial interactions he had, focusing on the belief that if he studied hard, enrolled into a good college, and got a good job at a respectable company, he would be set for life. A belief that would prove itself false. After he finally became part of the police force after years of hard work, he makes one small mistake and gets punished by being sent to Inaba, a small country town. This town is entirely bland compared to the city. This is heavily argued by the game itself, as the dialogue and story never really stops talking about how Yu comes from the big city, and how Inaba must seem small and boring in comparison. His salary at this new job in this small country town is exceedingly low, to the point where often the only thing he can afford to eat is boiled cabbage. This is where that fucking meme comes from. In addition to that, he constantly gets looked down upon and berated by his superior, Dojima. So I want you to consider this. Imagine that from when you were a small child, you were taught a specific way of life and to view the world. All these beliefs were instilled into you and you worked endless hours in order to secure your promised good future. And now that the future is actually here, your life is nowhere near what you thought it was going to be like. That time that you put in, the childhood that you sacrificed, is completely and utterly wasted. How disheartening and painful must it be to realize that not only was your entire worldview that you genuinely thought was right, actually wrong, but that you also lost your first 20 years of your life, only to end up in this state. That is by no means an easy pill to digest, which is why I completely understand why Adachi's mental state would end up so fucked up and desolate. And now, after being sent to Inaba, Adachi encounters Yu Narukami, a transfer student also from the big city. But what's this? Yu is living his life carefreely and has a bunch of friends who he can confide in and rely on in times of hardship. Instead of being ostracized by the people, he is accepted and loved by everyone around him. From Adachi's perspective, Yu has everything he wanted: a good life, lots of friends, and a youthful drive which propels him forward through any difficulty life throws at him. What a betrayal! I can only imagine the level of jealousy and discontent that Adachi must have had boiled up inside him. To quote Adachi,
Let's be honest, there's nothing great about the real world, is there? It's just dull and annoying as hell. No one accepts that's the way things are. They're just stuck with it because they can't deny it either. Those who actually succeed in life, they just happen to be born with a magic ticket called talent. If you don't have it, you can either accept or deny that fact until you die. That's your only choice. Once you realize that, all you have left in life is despair. The ultimate game over.
when this quote is said in the game, Adachi is beyond his breaking point. He assumes that everyone must feel the same way as he does and hardcore projects his unpleasant life. He's worked so hard all these years and gets nothing whatsoever to show for it, which is why he believes that the ones who succeed were born with a free ticket through life, talent. He refuses to accept the reality of his situation, that the position he's in is ultimately the cause of his actions, one way or the other. And so, because he's experienced such pain and agony, he wants to create a world where no one needs to suffer the same as he did. Adachi is stuck between the denial and acceptance of his broken worldview. He doesn't want to deny it because it's what shaped him for his whole life, but he also can't accept it, because to do so would mean that he must accept that he belongs where he's at, even after everything he's been through. Even through all of his inner mental discourse, he still has a human side to him. This is shown when Yu decides to go see Adachi by himself in the TV world. Realistically speaking, Adachi could have ended the journey right there and then. His persona would have completely destroyed any of Yu's tactics at that point in the game, unless you're on New Game Plus, and he literally had Yu at gunpoint. So why didn't he? The answer is simple. Adachi wanted to believe. His remaining human side wanted to believe in Yu and be proved wrong. This is also supported by Adachi's persona, Magatsu Izanagi. Magatsu translates to evil or disaster. The fact that Yu and Adachi have personas on two sides of the same coin speaks volumes about his character and potential. This is why Adachi is such an amazing yet misunderstood character. Yes, his actions are fucked up and psychotic, but it's not for nothing. There's deeply rooted motivation under all of the fog. While the game implies that he simply did it out of boredom, it's really the result of shattered beliefs from his mental warfare of two polarizing worldviews that tipped him over his breaking point.